Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the ninth of hopefully many episodes of Bardadvice, a podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, do my best to dole out advice and just discuss things all D&D in general. Just a quick reminder here at the top of the show that you can send your questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. I will do my best to answer them. This OGL talk has actually ended up being a little bit of a blessing just because it gives us a little bit of buffer time to get more questions. So if you're thinking of some, if you've thought of some, send them in. bardadvice@gmail.com and or bardadvice, whatever works for you. Grab yourself some merch over at manshorts.com. And tonight, we're probably going to be diving in and talking more about this OGL situation, as it were. Hello, everyone in chat. Hi, River. Welcome, River. Hi, Gronk. Pirate. Travis. Kenneth, everyone. Welcome. So, lots of stuff going on with the OGL. I have got myself a little setup with a lot of the information that is available. So hopefully, let's see how that transition works. Oh, good. Pretty seamlessly. So that's good. So Wizards has been is back at it. They've been back at it. They sent out a release a couple of days ago. First of all, before we get into all of that, actually, let me just address a couple of things just because I've seen a lot of people asking. I've seen a lot of people asking how this is going to affect our channel in terms of Mann Shorts content, obviously specifically with the D&D editions. And also I've gotten a couple of questions, not just here, but also on TikTok about how this is going to affect my music. So, the short answer is that I don't think that this OGL stuff is going to affect us at all. In terms of the D&D edition content, we would either legally be protected under the WotC fan policy, which is, pretty explicitly lays out that you can make content so long as it's accessible to the community for free, which it is on YouTube. And you can even monetize said content. But even if we weren't covered under the fair use, or the fan policy by Wizards themselves, I think that we would legally be covered under parody law. Lots of First Amendment stuff. Usually the clowns are protected. Usually the ha-has are okay. So I don't foresee there being any issues with that with us in the future. As to the music, it's the same kind of thing. I think that I would be protected both under the fan policy as well as, First Amendment clause type court arguments like parody law, which is pretty loose and fair. If you're doing something for the sake of entertainment or comedy, you're pretty free to do whatever you want to do. So just to quell any of those concerns, just because I've seen some questions about it, obviously the stuff that's going on with the OGL is not fun. Nobody likes it. And people are concerned about what it means for the future of the game and their businesses, etc. So this is really just to let everybody know that we're not going anywhere. We don't certainly plan to go anywhere. Hey, Avram. Spent an hour filling out the survey. Yikes. Yeah, I know. It's going to take me some time to get through it. But that's what we're going to talk about this evening. So also, I thought about this and I thought, well, maybe I couldn't just ignore it. And then I thought maybe I'll just speak about it briefly and then move into questions. But it's just too relevant and it's too complex and complicated. And I think it's too important for us to have a conversation. Scion Bloodline, Wizards of the Coast has always been greedy when it comes to the OGL, but it's about time they had to deal with desperation to retain their fan base again. And a donation of $20. Thank you very much. Appreciate the donation. Means a lot. That kind of stuff is very helpful. That kind of stuff goes directly to us. The super chats, anytime anybody is able to do any of those, obviously like the members of the channel, members of the Patreon, like all of that stuff really adds up and makes a difference for us in terms of being able to keep making content. So really appreciate that. You haven't been able to make the sessions, so Mustang stayed in the Ancient Library Tattoo Parlor. Oh, Mustang. Mustang Peppercorn. You ruse. So also I linked in the description on all of this stuff, just because I'll let it be clear, like I'm not an educated man. I am not an attorney by any stretch. You know, I'm not even really that smart. I think I can just process information quickly, but that's about as far as it goes. But all of that said, I have put a link to our friend Will at D&D Shorts, his video that he made today about it, as well as a link to the rules lawyer, who I didn't know about, but he seems to really know what he's talking about. And he does a real deep dive into it. I actually haven't even finished his video on it yet. So that's just some other content or rather info data for the community to peruse through. I would recommend it. It's recommended viewing. So let's get into the meat of this nonsense. I considered not making a whole episode about it, but it's just too relevant to the community. And I mean, anybody listening to the podcast is a D&D fan anyway. So, you know, this matters. Not to mention, like, Wizards wants us to not talk about it. So let's just keep talking about it. Okay, so back to this mess. So this was the original thing that they posted since we spoke about this last week. Also, I'm aware of Legal Eagle's video. I haven't actually watched it in full as far as like focusing and paying attention, but I know that it exists. And I'm aware that, you know, you can't really copyright rules or mechanics, but we'll get into that as we talk about it. So this was the original thing after the fallout from last week, after that corporate message that was like, we won. Hi, I'm Kyle Brink. So smart. So first of all, remember last week I said that maybe their initial plan of Wizards, maybe their original idea was to just be quiet and like see if it blew over, and it didn't. And people got some mad, and a bunch of people canceled their subscriptions. Money talks. But I imagine that there was one guy at the at the company, one lone nerd, that was like, "Hey guys, maybe we should say something." And I think that this is that guy. Which is, you know, now they've kind of just like thrown him to the fire. But let's see what he said. So I'm not going to read all of it because it's just so much. But so he wants to talk about a path forward. He starts with an apology. We're sorry we got it wrong. Now, I don't want to be like hypercritical and analyze every little thing, but I will say that I think that it's interesting that you know, they let Kyle kind of take that ownership. They just kind of let Kyle, they're like, here, Kyle, you take that fuck up. You take that L, dude. Which isn't really fair to Kyle, you know? He probably just wants to design a cool game. And they're like, all right, look, we're gonna release the Kyle email. Release the Kyle message. Yeah, you did make it just in time. Welcome. Welcome to the pod. And a reminder for anybody, if you don't know, this podcast streams at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel, and on this YouTube channel, rather. And then the audio is available Saturdays at noon. So watching live gets you a little sneak peek, and also unedited, because I don't cut a bunch, but I do tend to cut a little bit up for the actual audio. All right. Back into the fray. They just let Kyle take that L. First time they're apologizing, and it's through Kyle. So then he goes on to say that, like, yeah, man, looks like we pissed you guys off. So here's what we're going to do. On Friday, we're going to release a new OGL. And you're going to be prompted to do a survey, like the Unearthed Arcana playtest feedback surveys, right, guys? It's fun. And it's coming to you from Kyle, so you know it's trustworthy. The survey will remain open for at least 2 weeks. There will we compile, analyze, react to, and present back what we heard from you. I mean, no shot, right? Like, this is not how, I mean, I hate to burst people's bubble, but like, this is not how corporations make decisions. The shareholders are not awaiting community feedback. They don't give a fuck. And I don't think the Wizards does either. People were saying that, you know, why would they ask us our opinions? And I made a TikTok about this, and it's like, why would they ask us our opinions? You know, because you would think that if they really cared about our opinions, they would have asked us before their document leaked. But I think the reason that they're asking us our opinions is because they want to get a tangible figure on what they're going to lose and or what they can afford to lose. Because I was talking about this with my wife, right? Like, there's a spectrum among the community as to what people's opinions are about this. You know, like, some people are just like, you can't even talk to them if you're gonna, unless if you're talking about revoking the original OGL, which they're gonna do. Then there are other people who are like more on the fence about, like, well, you know, because you know, I don't publish content now. You know, I might have, probably won't now. Certainly not for that system. So it doesn't really affect me that much, right? Like, as I talked about, like, we're protected, but I don't know. Like, I think that the surveys is really just going to show them that, you know, how many people are like so pissed that they just can't deal anymore. And then how many people that they could potentially retain. Right? So it's like, I don't know what the survey is because I haven't gone into it yet. But like, just, you know, as an example, they're like, rate on a scale from 1 to 10 how pissed you were about the OGL. And, you know, the 10s will just be thrown in the loss pile. It's just like, we can't get those people back. But there is something to be said about the fact that you would, you know, log back into your D&D Beyond account to take the survey. You know, that's good for them. You know, it shows that there are some people, you know, at least they're still interested in participating. They're still interested in being in the area. So that's what I think the whole, like, survey thing is about. Because we've already seen feedback, right? Like, don't we already have receipts? Or at least, like, accounts from people that work there that, like, they don't really take any of the written thoughts or comments or notes into account. And, like, how could they, right? Like, again, they're operating on scales of numbers. We're not people, we're numbers. So, like, you know, they don't have time to read, like, Dark Phoenix 86's thoughts on, like, the mechanics of crossing a bridge. And it's not to say that people's input isn't valuable. It's just that I don't think that they're not monitoring it or gathering it in the way that people think they are. It's not like they're like, hey guys, how do we make our game better? And then they're listening to what we say. It's more of like trying to get a gauge of, like, are you going to stay around? Would you possibly spend more money? Because if you go in there and say a bunch of hateful nonsense on the survey and vote all zeros, like, they're just going to write you off as already gone. Like, they're not going to hustle to get your money when, like, they could just get 3 people's money who don't care. I hate to say it that way, but I mean that's how they see it. So, like, you have to start kind of think, you know, you got to think like your enemy or something, right? Is that a thing that somebody said? Maybe. Probably. What is all of this going on in the chat with the 0s and 5s? Also, remember, all surveys are 100% the opinion of people who will take a survey. Yeah, that's true too. You know, a lot of times I can't be fucking bothered. You could barely get me to sign weed petitions, and I've been high since 2010. Okay, so let's look more at this stuff. They go on to talk about like video content, which, you know, again, we discussed fan content policy. They can't do anything. They shouldn't be able to do anything. Your accessories, no changes will affect your ability to sell minis, novels, apparel, dice, and other items related to your creations, characters, and worlds. I don't know. Like, I mean, it wouldn't until it affected Wizards' bottom line. You know? I mean, we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at the actual OGL that they released today, but like, this kind of language where it's just like, look, guys, if you're selling minis, it's just no big deal, no big banana. You just sell your minis. But like, until you fucking have a beholder that is like, that outsells whatever D&D is selling, whatever Wizards is selling for their beholder, then it's a problem. It's not a problem until it's a problem. That's why they have these trapdoor ejector seat things, clauses in contracts. Moving right along. Moving right along. Non-published works, for instance, contracted services. You can use the OGL if you want to publish your works that reference 5th edition to the SRD. Commission work, paid DM services, consulting aren't affected by the OGL. Fucking imagine thinking that you would need to clarify that. They're like, oh man, we better make them sure. We better make sure that they know we're not going to take any money from their DMing. The fuck? I mean, I'm sorry. That's vulgar of me, but that offends me. Who was even thinking that? Who on the planet was like, I mean, I guess people, if they need to clarify your paid DM services, don't worry, gang. We're not going to like take your DM contract money. Insane. VTT stuff, we'll get into that later as well, because they're going to, you know, they're essentially demolishing anybody being able to do something relatively similar. The guild content, that's why they bought Roll20. DM's guild content, the content you release on DM's guild is published under community content agreement with DM's guild. This is not changing. Yeah, so that's a separate thing. OGL 1A, nothing will impact any content you have published under OGL 1A. That will always be licensed under OGL 1A. Yeah, but I mean, this new thing is going to make the 1A null and void for any content moving forward. So you're not going to, it's not as if you're going to be able to publish under the original OGL moving forward. Moving forward, or at least rather once this is officially released, moving forward, you'll need to release any kind of content under the new OGL. Won't be able to do that under the old one. So, you know, it's going to kind of be, I think it's a race. I think people should start making a bunch of shit under the original OGL, like right now, and get that shit released before the new OGL comes out. You know, just if you were planning on doing so. Your OGL 1A content, oh yeah, we just talked about that. Your revenue, there will be no royalty or financing reporting requirements. So that's the second time that that's been said publicly. I still don't know if I buy that. Not to say that it would be hard for them to enforce, because I think that it would be. But to think that they're not going to go after that money after it was in the first one, don't know. Your ownership of your content, you will continue to own your content with no license back requirements. That's also the second time I've seen that. So, okay, thanks, Kyle. So that was the original message. Then we moved on to this next one, which was the actual release of the OGL, which we're going to go through in a second. You know, more stuff from Kyle. They really should have done this first, you know? If they would have released the message from Kyle the first time, I think that they could have mitigated a lot of damage. But the corporate response was just so phony, and now nobody buys anything that you're saying because, you know, I think that we have to keep reminding ourselves as the community that like the original, this OGL stuff came out as a leak. This was not released to the community. Thank you, John. Just wanted to tell you found your channel during the height of the flu in 2020, COVID. Gave me something to laugh at and D&D to think about when my group was separated. Thanks. Group hasn't played since. Thank you, John. And I appreciate the donation very much. Oh, hey, Justin's in here. Hey, Justin. Ooh, Jags are playing the Chiefs tomorrow. It's going to be crazy. I'm not leaving the house. Going to be a bunch of drunkos on the road. D&D Shorts has several great videos breaking it all down. Yes, they do. I did link that in the description. The thing they did with this for Ian drove them off a cliff. Also, love your flow. Oh, thank you, Rage. Appreciate it. Much love. So go Jags. Keep pushing through this mess. Where are we at? Are we at the end of this? Oh, no. We started over. The new thing. Okay, yeah. So for 20 years, thousands of creators have helped grow the team. Yeah, we know that. So we're doing these things. We're giving the core D&D mechanics to the community through a Creative Commons license, which means they are fully in your hands. Hey, listen. From what I understand, they were always in our hands. I said earlier, I'm not a lawyer. Don't come at me. But from my rudimentary understanding, from some of the things I've seen, you can't really copyright game mechanics and or rules anyway. And so like mechanics, like being based on what was in the document, this is something that I made some notes when I was watching the rules lawyer thing. What they're referencing when they're talking about like mechanics and engine stuff that's under the Creative Commons license is like making a character, leveling up, the combat sequence, rules for skills, casting spells. They can't really copyright that anyway. So it's kind of just like a gift that's not really a gift. Like it's just lawyer rap. The mechanics are always available. You can only copyright the expression of those mechanics. Yeah. Right. So, you know, that's just kind of like a non-thing. They're just like, it's like the hate speech thing where it's like, hey, look, we're doing this thing for this. And it's like, yeah, but you don't need to do that. Not necessary. I mean, I guess it's like a nice gesture, but it's really hollow. Like there's not really value to it. It's not anything we didn't have already. And then number two, if you want to use quintessentially D&D content from the SRD, such as Owlbears and Magic Missile, now that shit's different. Now we're talking about true copyright shit, or at least stuff that could be argued to be copyright. I don't know what the legal precedent is on Owlbears, but I know that a lot of that stuff was settled back in when the Tolkien estate went after TSR. OGL 1.2 will provide you a perpetual irrevocable license to do so. There they go with the revocable. I mean, first of all, fun word to say, irrevocable. Also, not really, doesn't really mean anything. And we know that because the original OGL had all that language in it. Had language like perpetuity and, you know. But, again, if you have these like ejector seat, I keep going back to ejector seat because I was watching clips of Die Hard 2 earlier. And, oh man, if you get a chance, go to YouTube and search Die Hard 2 ejector seat. So much nonsense. First of all, Die Hard 2 is so bad, I wish it didn't exist. Because the first one is a classic, and Vengeance is great, but yikes, yowee, the second one's so bad. There's this moment where he's like in the plane, and these guys are around it trying to kill him, and they throw the grenades in there, and he ejects himself out of the plane, and it's crazy town. But that's what these companies do with these contracts. They put in a John McClane clause, where if shit goes sideways and it's not working out well for them, they can just, you know, narrowly evade the explosion. Creative Commons is a non-profit dedicated to share. Yeah, Creative Commons, it doesn't really mean anything. Let's talk OGL 1.2. You know, by the way, hilarious that 1-1 was the one that leaked and they're calling this 1-2, like essentially acknowledging that like the first one existed and like we weren't supposed to know about it. It's kind of silly. Anyway, first, it allows us to address hateful content. Yeah. Second, it also applies to published TTRPG content, including on VTTs. Yeah. There's not going to be any of those but them. Third, the license specifically includes the word irrevocable. Wow. What's not in there? No royalty payment. They're saying it again. No financial reporting. No license back. No registration. No distinction between commercial and non-commercial. I mean, really, Wizards? You expect me to believe that in your verbiage of this contract that like people put together for a multi-billion-dollar corporation is like, I mean, it's not going to even matter if you make money. It's just not. It's just more disingenuous behavior, I think. I don't buy that. Nothing will impact any of the content published under one. Yeah. Your stuff is your stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. There's a link at the end of this note where you can download the PDF of the proposed. Yep, did that. We're going to look into it. Protecting inclusive play experience. Really hammering on that. TTRPGs and VTTs. Deauthorizing 1. We know this is a big concern. Dude, this is awesome that they started it with this sentence because they're going to do it anyway. They're like, okay, look, guys, we're going to go through the bullet points of your concerns. We heard you. We've listened to the community. We noticed that you're upset that we might get rid of the OGL 1. And listen, you know, we know it's a big concern. We're going to do it anyway. One key reason why we have to deauthorize, we can't use the protective options in 1-2 if someone can just publish harmful. I mean, dude, you could just, hey. If you're like in perpetuity, irrevocable, you know, magic contract for eternity, couldn't have been. If you can deauthorize the first one, you can edit it. If you can just pretend that the first one didn't exist ever at all, you could edit 1 and put in your discriminatory clause. In fact, I can say with confidence that I don't think anyone in the community would be opposed to that. But that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is getting rid of it entirely and then like claiming that it's about this one thing. I don't know, man. If you have the legal power to get rid of something entirely, wouldn't it just be easier to change it? If that was really what you wanted to do, you would just do that. Only 2 sections can be changed once 1-2 is live. Yeah, I doubt that. Because we're going to have those, we're going to have that ejector seat clause, baby. It's going to be in there. Let's listen to chat. No one believes their reason. Yeah. It's a non-issue. Create generic names for mechanics and write rules that make sense. But Chaz, that's too easy. Yeah. I know it is. And that the fact that it's so easy should prove that that's not what they want to do. Here's a bunch of stuff where I feel like the hateful and conduct thing comes up in every fucking, like every 3 sentences. You know, I used to write content, marketing content, and the thing about marketing content, especially when you're doing SEO, at least this was the case 15 years ago, is that like if you're writing an article, right, like for a blog or something, and you're writing it about umbrellas, and your objective for writing the blog article is to sell umbrellas, you want to say umbrella or umbrellas as many times as possible in that article without making it appear obvious that you're saying it as much as possible. Because that way, when the SEO spiders do their thing and scan for your article, umbrella comes up in it 70 times. So it's more likely that somebody is going to pick that up. So I don't know why I don't know why I got into that. I don't know where that came from. I totally lost my train of thought. Buzzwords only. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's what they're doing with the hateful content thing. It's like every 3 sentences, they're like, oh, and also hateful content. We don't want that, right, guys? It's like, no, of course. Nobody wants that. So dumb. Like they put it on me. Well, you don't want that, right? What are you talking about? Overall, good faith creators, we're going to give good faith creators the same level of freedom or greater for things in Creative Commons to create TTR. They keep thumping that Creative Commons drum. That's not a flex. Like, to create TTRPG content that's been so great for everyone while giving us the tools to ensure the game continues to become ever more inclusive and welcoming. All right, so let's get into this. Draft for discussion purposes only. They make sure to put that on there because the first one was leaked, remember? Ridiculous. Like, just so you guys know, this is a draft. Definitely. Definitely a draft. And it's 6 pages, which I don't know if I buy it, it's going to be this short, but we'll see. I love it. Draft. It's a draft, guys, and it's a draft. See here, it's a draft. Dude, it's okay, so I've seen the word draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times on the first page. So I think that that's clear. They're really hammering that in. So this is the beginning. Introduction to SRD 5.1. So SRD 5.1, if you don't know, is basically like their collection of what I guess they assume to be their copyrighted, you know, their copyrighted mechanics that they're allowing us to use through this wonderful Creative Commons attribution that, like, you know, there's a reason it's called Creative Commons. It's not anything special. You don't need it. You could operate without it, but they're just putting it on there because it's just like, look at this. Their last draft omitted the word draft and had a dotted line to sign instead. Yep, that's what I hoid. That's what I hear through the grapevine, is that it was a little shady town. Dungeons & Dragons content is available to you in many ways. Through the core mechanics, and then they break down, you know, the SRD. Now, I put over here that, you know, the SRD is inclusive of all of that other stuff that we talked about, all the mechanical stuff, right? That's why they put it under Creative Commons, because it doesn't really matter, and they can just put it under there and say that. All the copyrighted stuff, right, the next section, are copyrighted rights, or copyright rights in the other content, including in the SRD, are licensed to you under the OGL 1.2. Use of D&D content in VTTs is allowed with the VT policy, or I guess VTT policy. Content is allowed. Platforms such as D&D Beyond and DM's Guild provide additional paths to share your D&D content under different license terms. And I think that that's really important to note as well, because how many of these third-party publishers use DM's Guild or D&D Beyond itself to publish their content? Probably a lot of them. It's probably a situation where if you don't publish content on D&D Beyond, you publish it on DM's Guild. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other places, right? But I mean, those are like the Walmarts of TTRPG distribution, at least for, you know, D&D. So that's troubling and should be troubling to creators in the sense that, like, you're not still really getting an answer as to how this is going to affect your ability to publish, because, you know, who cares what the OGL says if DM's Guild and D&D Beyond can have their own publishing terms as to what they publish on the website? And they would be under the rights to not publish anything. You know, they wouldn't be forced to publish something. So they could really, for any reason, just be like, no, we're not going to publish that. Which is just, you know, they kind of have the legal right to do. It's just shitty. Creator product badges. I don't like this shit either. This is culty type stuff. I don't need a badge, dude. I don't like any of that shit. I don't like it when I see it in politics. I don't like it when I see people wearing fucking hats or having bumper stickers or any of that shit, like making politicians their identity when they're all equally criminal. I don't want to talk about politics, but that, you know, just likening it to this, like, I don't like this either. Like, don't give me a badge. Stupid. I'd rather put something at the front. Which is, I think, what you have to do anyway, right? Are you able to use the badge in lieu of posting like a... We don't need no stinking badges. Oh, man. Blazing Saddles is one of my dad's favorite movies. That shit was so funny. Couldn't make it today, that's for sure. All right, back to this. This is a license between WotC and anyone who wants to use the licensed content in their own TTRPG. It's used in this license. We includes our affiliates, successors, and predecessors. I mean, vague. So vague. All of these damn contracts are vague. They do it on purpose. You know why? Because then they can argue it more effectively later in court. If you leave yourself room, then in court you can say, well, what we meant was. Nonsense. Licensed content, content covered, our licensed content. This license covers any content in the SRD, right, that's not licensed to you under Creative Commons, which you don't need to do. You may use that content in your own works or the terms of this license. Unlicensed content, which, you know, this seems like weird verbiage too, and it's important though. I mean, it wouldn't be in here if it wasn't. Only our licensed content is licensed under this license? What the fuck am I reading? What is that, a Laffy Taffy joke? Only our licensed content is licensed under this license. I mean, they write them like this on purpose because it's supposed to confuse you. I mean, I have difficulty as it is, but yikes. Any other content we release or have released is not licensed to you under this license. Got it. That totally makes sense. This is your creative contributions to your works that are not or your content. This is your creative contributions to your works that are not our licensed content or our unlicensed content. This license permits you to combine your content with our licensed content and distribute the resulting works as authorized by this license. Jeez. So much going on. We should get badges for every contract we sign. Oh yeah, then it would turn into a thing where people would collect badges. I've signed 84,000 contracts. Your licensed work, works covered. This license only applies to printed media and static electronic files. Yeah, that's because that's all it could cover. You create for use in TTRPGs and in virtual TT, which, you know, that's going to become the standard, by the way. They keep harkening back to that. And I know that I said before, like, who cares about that? But I shouldn't have said that, because not only are there obviously people that are in that space that really do care about it, but you know, it's unfortunate that it seems like, just from what I've looked at briefly, that they're really trying to push everybody, any kind of competitors, out away from them when it comes to the VTT stuff. Your licensed work to be a licensed work under this license. Here we go again with the licenses. It must be a covered work as defined in section 1B, which is, right, we talked about the works covered right above it. It's stuff that is printed media and static electronic files like e-publications or PDFs. It must contain both our licensed content and your content, and not contain our unlicensed content, which, again, I still don't know what the hell that means. Like, why is it on the onus of the person who's creating third-party content to know whether or not the content that you've published is licensed or not? That seems tricky. We're only licensing you our copyrights and our licensed content, except that under Section 5A, we also grant you a trademark license to the Creator Product Badge. Oh, thanks for that. As further detailed in the Creator Product Badge Style Guide. Now, I did this earlier, and it took me nowhere. And it looks like that's the case now. Yeah. It's like, oh, cool. Oh, perfect. We have further detail for the Creator okay, great. What does that say? And then it's like, oh. Looks like actually nothing. Looks like just like a link to the main website. So, okay. In consideration for your compliance with this license, you may copy, use, modify, and distribute our licensed content around the world as part of your license works. This license is perpetual, meaning that it has no set end date, non-exclusive, meaning that we may offer others a license to our licensed content or our unlicensed content under any conditions we choose, and irrevocable, meaning that our content license under this license can never be withdrawn from the license. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't even know if you could even do that. I'll be interested to see if, like, you know, I'm going to look more into it, obviously, and look up more people's stuff. It'd be nice to get Legal, if Legal Eagle would make another video about it now that they've, like, released it and, like, really break down. But I'm sure that other nerd attorneys or lawyers in the space will do it. So we'll be able to look it up and see. Contract ambiguity is judged to be in favor of the person who didn't write the contract. However, Hasbro only needs to use it as a reason to sue and then bleed you out of court with an army of lawyers. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing too. It's unfortunate about the fact that, like, you know, money's the most important thing in this country. Full stop, by the way. And I'm not saying that I believe that, like, morally speaking. It's not the most important thing to me. But in this place we've made, it's the most important thing. And so as a result, you have stuff like this, and they can very well do that. So whether they have a moral or even legal leg to stand on is kind of irrelevant, because they have a team of attorneys that are on retainer whose job it is to keep them, you know, to keep making them money by, you know, diminishing or mitigating competition, you know, setting it up in such a way that people really have no other kind of option but to go to them. They can try it. Canada has anti-slap laws, so they pay my lawyers if they lose. Interesting. Oh, that'll be interesting too, because in different jurisdictions, because I mean, I don't know much about the American law. I know even less about Canadian law, so I hadn't even considered that. I'm certain that Wizards has. All right. Back to this. Let me find my place here, gang. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. I know that this stuff is kind of, like, boring and not real fun to talk about, but again, I think it's important that we talk about it more than anything, that we have a conversation about it, because, you know, they definitely don't want that. They don't want us communicating and figuring out that, like, you know, maybe we need to make some different decisions with our pocketbooks and wallets. We'll see. What you own, your licensed work or your licensed works are yours. They may not be copied or used without your permission. You acknowledge that we and our licensees, yeah, as content creators ourselves, might independently come up with content similar to something you create. If you have a claim that we breached this, this is great too. If you have a claim that we breached this provision, or that one of our licensees did in connection with content they licensed from us. Two pieces. Any such claim will be brought only as a lawsuit for breach of contract and only for money damages. You expressly agree that money damages are an adequate remedy for such a breach and that you will not seek to be entitled to injunctive relief. So again, lots more legalese. I did actually look up injunctive relief because I was reading this stuff earlier and wanted to do, like, at least a little bit of homework before I talked about it. So injunctive relief is basically other forms of punishment / justice that are not monetary. Specifically in a case like this, it would be stopping the publication of. So let's say, for example, that you create, like, this really dope race or class or mechanic under this OGL, and then Wizards, because it's not going to work both ways, right? But, like, let's say you make this really cool thing, and then Wizards basically essentially takes it, or, you know, accidentally makes something that's really, really close. Like, the part 2 of this says that in any such lawsuit, you must show that we knowingly and intentionally copied your licensed work. That's going to be really fucking hard to do, even if you were right. Access and substantial similarity will not be enough to prove a breach of this Section 3. So it's going to be really, really hard to prove. And even if you won, you wouldn't be eligible for any type of injunctive relief, which is to say that, like, Wizards wouldn't have to stop publishing it. So if you make a thing and then they accidentally publish something incredibly similar to that thing, you can sue them so long as you can prove that they knowingly copied it, which is just an Everest of a case to prove, I think. But then even if you win, you can pretty much only get bought off. You know, there's not going to be any type of injunction that the court would place on Wizards to stop publishing your super dope thing. So, yeah, there's that. What we own, which is concerning. What we own our licensed content and reserve all rights not expressly granted in this license. You control your content. You can make your content available under any terms you choose, but may not change the terms under which we make our licensed content available. Must clearly indicate that your licensed work contains our licensed content, which I guess that you can do by the full text or by the creator products badge, which, hey, remember, gang, if you want to know how the creator product badge works, you just go to the creator product badge style guide. Oh, that's right. It goes nowhere. Damn, dude. What are they doing? It just seems silly. Why have links? Why make it appear so, like, helpful and then, like, not have just basic information? Like, I can't even, like, look at the goofy badge thing. Warranties and disclaimers you represent and warrant that age and capacity to be bound, you're over the age of majority, or if younger, have had a parent or guardian review these terms and agree to them on your behalf. Authority. So this is all, like, legal stuff about how you sign stuff. Although, this is really an important section, this 6F. No hateful content or conduct. You will not include content in your licensed works that is harmful, discriminatory, illegal, obscene, or harassing, or engage in conduct that is and this piece, or engage in conduct that is harmful, discriminatory, illegal, obscene, or harassing. We have the sole right to decide what conduct or content is hateful, and you covenant, that means swear. You swear that you will not contest any such determination via any suit or other legal action. So that seems insane. Right? Now, let me be clear. As a person, I don't advocate for any of those things. In fact, I condemn all of those things. If you're doing shit that is illegal or discriminatory or obscene or harassing, I don't think that that's okay. The only problem with that is, like, what is obscene and what is harassing? Because I think that, like, illegal and discriminatory are pretty clear cut, but obscenity and harassment is, like, all over the board. What does that mean? And more importantly, can that change? It would have to. It would have to change with ownership if Wizards is stating that they are the judge and jury when it comes to, like, what they consider to be harmful content. I mean, that could change at any moment. Illegal is not clear cut. I mean, illegal is clear cut, I think, in the sense of, like, jurisdiction, right? Like, if you're committing a crime, depending on where you are, that crime is a crime is a crime. That's really not here nor it's really neither here nor there. But the obscenity thing, that makes me weary, because it's just like, look, dude, of course we don't want any kind of that nonsense that you know, any kind of racist or hateful bullshit being printed out. But like that kind of stuff can get knocked down by DMCA and like the original OGL as it stands. Under the original OGL, they could just fucking pull your card. They've always been able to do that. So I don't know. That makes me worried. I don't like that kind of language of just like, hey, you're not allowed. And also, like, I understand that if you're doing the content, but it's like, but the conduct, like, what the hell is that? But people, what? So like, if somebody says something that you deem obscene on their podcast, then you're gonna come after them for their D&D content. Good luck, dude. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know how much of this is gonna be able to really stand. Modification. Oh, here we go, gang. We did it. We reached it. This is critical mass. We've made it to the Die Hard 2 moment. This is the ejector seat. This is where everything that we just talked about doesn't really mean anything. Modification or termination. Modification. We may only modify the provisions of this license identifying the attribution required under Section 5 and the notice provision of Section 9A, which we haven't gotten to. We may not modify any other provision. Like, oh, okay, cool. So that sounds like you can't do anything. Okay, that you could. Oh, or you can do something, but you can only do it under these terms and conditions. Okay, cool. Termination. We may immediately terminate your license if you infringe any of our intellectual property. Right? Bring an action challenging our ownership of our licensed content, trademarks, or patents. Violate. So yeah, like if you sue them, essentially, then the license is terminated. Violate any law in relation to your activities under this license, or violate Section 6F, which, remember, that's the whole thing where they're like, you know, the obscenity police, I guess. I can't imagine that that's like. I mean, I guess if you sign it, you know, that's the trouble too with this place when it comes to contracts, is that it's like, well, if you sign it, it's really hard to prove that like you were lied to or didn't know what you were signing. Ignorance of the law is not typically a good excuse, unfortunately. And corporations like this bank on that. We may terminate your license if you breach any other term in this license and do not cure that breach within 30 days of notice. Oh, man. All right. Well, we're getting through, gang. We're getting close. Disclaimer of warranties and limitation of liability. Blah, blah, blah. Miscellaneous notices. No waiver of rights. If we fail to exercise any right we have under this license, that failure will not prevent us from exercising that right in the future. If any part of this license is held to be unenforceable or invalid for any reason, Wizards may declare the entire license void. Also kind of insane, either as between it and the party that obtained the ruling or in its entirety. Unless Wizards elects to do so, the balance of this license will be enforced as if that part which is unenforceable or invalid did not exist. This is ejector seat stuff. Headings and footnotes. Waiver of jury trial. That's important too. You're waiving any right to jury trial for disputes. So it's going to just be y'all. It's just going to be your company, Wizards, and the judge. And, you know, hopefully they didn't pay that judge anything. You should seek advice of counsel to make sure you understand this license. You agree that you had the opportunity to do so. Damn, that's important too. They're basically just like, well. And then they go into all of the VTT stuff. So let me take a look in chat and see where we are. Don't see any reasons to continue using D&D or any WotC products. I hope that enough people feel the same, and I hope it hurts them enough to make a difference. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's just, I think the jury's still out as to, you know, I think that the movie will tell us a lot. But you got to expect that they're going to at least make like $100 million that first weekend, right? Even with the community as pissed off as we are. And then you know what they would do? What they would do is they were smart. I was talking about my wife about this earlier. I think that they're going to make a bunch of those movies. I think that they're just going to do like what Marvel did. And they're just going to fucking make 15 of them. And it's going to be like they'll do the first one. And then next summer, it'll be like an origin story from whoever everybody's favorite character was from the first one. And then there'll be a story of like 2 of the other ones and their origin, and then like they'll just make 10 or 15 of them. And then if they were smart, they would just release them directly to streaming services, and then that way they could capitalize on people who like would watch, people like me who wouldn't want to go spend money at the theater to watch it, but if it's made available on a streaming service that I already pay for, I would probably watch. That's, I think, going to happen a lot. And then, of course, also just like, you know, the sheer number of young people who may or may not be plugged into this conversation, who are just going to go see the movie when it comes out in a month or two, March. They're just going to go see the movie in the spring and probably love it, because let's face it, it's probably going to be the best D&D movie we have up to this point. I mean, certainly better than the one with Jeremy Irons. Not that I'm going to be hateful on that original movie. That 2000s D&D is something special. There's a very special place in my heart for that movie. But anyway, more VTT stuff. Basically, we support the role of VTT's play in tabletop. Where's the line between VTT and a video game? Yeah, so displaying static SRD content is fine because it's just like looking in a source book. You could put the text of Magic Missile up in your VTT and use it to calculate and apply damage to your target. And automating Magic Missile's damage to replace manually rolling and calculating is also fine. May I make my VTT Owlbear token look like the one from the Monster Manual? No. We've never licensed visual depictions of our content under the OGL. Just the text of the SRD. That hasn't changed. You can create a creature called an owlbear with the stat block from the SRD. You cannot copy any of our owlbear depictions. But if you've drawn your own unique owlbear or someone else did, you can use it. What about OGL 1? Yes, you can upload your already licensed content to a VTT. I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that that's going to be one of the big ones that we see when like some of this stuff starts going to court. I think that that's going to be a big piece of contention. Like, because it seems to me that like their big issue with the original OGL is that it allows for too much competition. It doesn't like cover their IP enough. So that's the whole reason they're making this new one. I don't know though. I don't know. Policy, i.e. subject to change. Yeah, that's the other thing too, y'all, with this is that it's just unfortunate because they've got that ejector seat. You know. This license governs your use of our licensed content. It consists only of the terms expressly included herein and not any matter not expressly included herein. In accepting this license, you represent and warrant to us that you have relied only on the terms of the license and the advice of your own counsel, if any. You have not relied on anything that is not expressly a part of this license. Damn, dude. Like, they are really, I think, trying to cover themselves for something like people feeling like maybe they were signed. They signed onto this because they felt like they were coerced into it or pressured or intimidated into. Each party hereto irrevocably waives the right to participate in any class, collective, or other joint action with respect to such dispute. Damn. So, like, you can't sue them, I guess, if you sign on to this. At least that's what it's saying. Yeah, it's just the fact that they can kind of just change anything that they want all the time. We may immediately terminate your license if you infringe on any of our IP, bring an action challenging our ownership, trademarks, or patents, violate any law in relation to your activities under this license, i.e. 6F. So, like, essentially, this is really essentially saying that, like, hey, Daryl, appreciate your time going through this. Thank you, Daryl, for the donation. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And you're welcome. I think it's important for us to talk about. I also agree with him that hate speech stuff may be a lever. Don't like that someone... Don't like that they mentioned... Oh. Yeah, the badges thing is silly. I don't see that being, I don't see anybody doing that like legitimate, like genuinely or non-ironically. I feel like people will do it like as a meme, but I don't think anybody's gonna like seriously be like, yeah, oh, hey, look, I got the creator badge. I don't know, gang. I don't know if we've learned much of anything else. So the survey is here. I've not really looked into it. I would like to provide feedback. If you chose not to provide feedback, you'll still have the opportunity to provide other feedback. Yeah, and it's just a blank box, Like, how about this? How about this? What concerns or questions come to mind for you? How about what are you doing? Why? How do this? Obviously, I'm going to spend some more time thinking about it and give them some real feedback. Not that I think that they're going to read it. It's probably going to take me a long time. An owl beagle? Oh, that sounds fun. Kenan Thompson's why? Why is there a need to change the OGL in the first place? That is a good question, John. And it should be the question that everyone continues to ask. Because that is the real question. Why can't these major things that need to change just be changed in the original OGL? And if the argument is that they can't be changed in the original OGL because the original OGL exists in perpetuity and is irrevocable and can't be changed, then how are you going to just like pretend it doesn't exist by releasing this new 1.2? Why fix something that isn't broken? Pathfinder is why. Hell yeah, Pathfinder is why. You know why? Because they made a better game. Hot take. But dude, listen, I love 3.5. The other night I was just reading out of the Complete Adventurer for fun. I love 3.5. But Pathfinder's better. Mechanically, they just made it better. It's just, there's a reason that people call Pathfinder 3.75. Now, I can't speak to Pathfinder 2. I don't really know anything about it, other than it exists. I've never played it. River says it's really good. I'm not saying whether it's good or not. I know that the first one is better than 3.5. And 3.5 is my favorite version. So I really couldn't care less about 5e to the extent of it existing as a system. Like, obviously it's relevant to the space, to the realm of content that I'm in, but like, I want to play a 3.5 campaign so bad, and now all of this stuff's happening. So, maybe we'll just play Pathfinder. God, there's just so much cool shit in 3.5 though, dude. Like, I was looking at the Uncanny Trickster's in the Scoundrel, not in the Adventurer. But the Uncanny Trickster, some of the coolest stuff. Yeah, I would love to do a Pathfinder campaign. I'm totally down for that. Man, this hour just like completely flew by. I guess I was pretty much reading the whole time. But hopefully, some people found it educational. At least enough that we have somewhat of an idea. Let's look at this one last piece here. This is at the end of the second message from Kyle. We're very interested to read your thoughts. Our team does a great job compiling all the playtest feedback for us in a comprehensible way to reflect and act on, so I'm confident they'll do the same here. After you've read the new SRD 5.1 introduction, OGL 1.2, and the VTT policy, provide feedback. The survey is open until February 3rd, which is 2 weeks from today. So that's Friday. The Friday after next. Good movie also. We'll talk again on or before February 17th. Whoa. So they're open until the 3rd, and then they'll talk again in 2 more weeks. So really, we're not going to know anything about this for a month, is essentially what they're saying. Process will extend as long as it needs to. I mean, that's not true, because you got a movie to release, you got a fucking game that's supposed to be coming out. It's not just going to go on until it's resolved. We'll keep iterating and getting your feedback until we get it right. I mean, if that's really true, then we're going to be here for like 6 years, and the end result will be the original OGL. It's not true. I don't think that they're just going to like it. D&D is my life's hobby because I'm fundamentally a co-op gamer. Let's tackle this together. Oh, man, I feel for this guy, Kyle, because he's probably like actually a good dude. He's probably like, he just wants to make a cool game. And then he's got to fucking work. And then they send him out, which I think is just so shitty, you know? All these suits make all of these wacky decisions, and then they're like, send the nerd out there to talk to him. Kyle will go calm him down. And it's like, why does Kyle have to apologize for your shitty decisions? I don't like that. How about a message from Cynthia Williams, the CEO of Wizards? I'm much more interested in what she has to say than Kyle. No offense, Kyle. I'm sure you're a nice guy. But like, what you think doesn't really have any bearing on what's going on, which seems counterintuitive since you're like the executive designer of the game. But I mean, you don't, you know, when upper management, when the execs tell you to jump, you ask how high. And you can't really blame Kyle because, you know, he's probably just excited to be doing a job that he gets to make D&D. What a kick-ass job. But you have to put up with all of this bullshit too. What if it was all Kyle's idea? Yeah. He's the one behind it all. Just like hard cut to like, he's in just like a dark room with just like a single computer monitor in the corner. Sending the nerds. Yeah. That's exactly what they did. You know, Gygax and Arneson personally back in the day, they'd be steaming if they knew it was being done to their game. Yeah. I'm sure. Kyle's patron is Hasbro. Yeah. I don't know. It's, yeah, Wizards is an illusion. It's just Kyle. Yeah, like Cynthia Williams is just like a made up. It's all just this guy, Kyle. And then after that bullshit press release last week, he was like, oh man, they're just, I've got to come out and admit that it's all me. Unrelated, but your D&D raps are really clean. Oh, thank you very much. I'm working on new ones. Working on new stuff all the time. Man, I got to tell you, it's really nice that I can actually stream without having to worry about dropping off the face of the earth because I actually have good internet now. So I think that's where we're going to wrap up and end for the evening. You know, we're a bit over an hour. Oh, also, just one last quick note, just because I'd noticed it before. Let me see if I can find where it is in the document. There's this word in there called it's called sui generis. And I don't know where it is. We're gonna try and find it. But if we can't find it, if you see it and don't know what it means of its own kind or unique. I looked that up too because I saw it and I was like, what in the hell is this? It just must be in a piece that we didn't actually read over completely. But yeah, that's what that means. It's SUI, and then it's two words. The first is SUI, and then the second is GENERIS. So that's just more legal speak to confuse people. But that's all that means, is that it means like unique, of your own. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. So I guess we'll know more in the coming weeks. Hopefully. I doubt we'll know. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for the $100 donation. Damn. Thank you, the man in black. That's awesome. Very generous of you. Really appreciate it. Kind of like people brake checking semis. Wow. Yeah, that's very awesome. Thank you, the man in black. May I appreciate and listen to all your commentary. I'm glad. Thank you. That makes me feel good. You know, like I said at the beginning of this, I didn't know if I wanted to spend the whole time talking on it, but I'm glad that we did, because again, I think that these kind of big corporations bank on the fact that people don't talk, people don't communicate, people don't fight back. Things blow over eventually. But like, I feel like the TTRPG community, like, we're not the ones. You know, I said in a TikTok, and I've said before, like, don't throw rocks at the murder hobos. It's ill-advised behavior. And I think that a lot of corporations can get away with doing this stuff. And, really, we should have seen the writing on the wall when Hasbro, didn't they do a bunch of fucked up stuff with Transformers? And the Transformers people probably tried to warn the community and nobody listened. But I mean, this seems to be a trend that is not going to be letting up anytime soon. So yeah, I don't think that we can we can't just like let it blow over. We have to keep talking about it at a minimum. Don't let them think we forgot. And they strategically put that shit a month out, because the next month, you know what happens? The movie comes out. So it's like, okay, well, we'll give them a month to try and calm down. We'll appease them and make them think that the surveys matter. That'll buy us a month. And then that'll give us time to craft whatever the next release will be a month from now. And then that'll give us a month just to make it to the movie. And they must be thinking that once they hit the movie release date, that they're going to be fine, that they're going to be good. But yeah, I've heard that they screwed up Magic stuff, Magic the Gathering, obviously. I've seen a lot of really terrible stuff about that. They shot down BotCon to monopolize the whole TF convention thing. Failed spectacularly. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to go and see the movie. I'm certainly not going to spend money on it directly. Now, if it comes across my screen, I will probably watch it for, research purposes. But no shot am I going to go out of my way to spend money on it. I don't know. I'm not really big on going to the movies anyway, so I don't know if I would have anyway, but I'm definitely not going to now. Not unless, like, they come out on the 17th of February and say, okay, we've decided that we're just going to abandon this completely, and we're just going to make these adjustments in the original OGL to include this language about, like, the hateful content that we care so much about protecting. I mean, short of that, I don't see how they can at least make it up to the people who are already pissed and checked out. But all right, gang. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out this evening. We didn't do any questions tonight, but I'm gonna do some next week, because I'm tired of at least talking about it for a little while. We're not gonna know anything for sure, at least until at a minimum until the 3rd, which is 2 weeks out, but more likely not until the 17th of February. So they've let us know that they're not going to probably, at least that they don't have to make an official announcement about anything until the 17th, because they're going to probably, it's really smart of them because it also buys them time. That's the other thing about the surveys. It doesn't just let them get a grasp on how much money they're going to lose, but it buys them time. If they can say, hey, we're going to put this survey out and we're going to give you 2 weeks, that gives them 2 weeks to fucking figure out how to move forward after that. So, this is also stalling tactics because from what I can see, everything says that it's just going to be, they're just going to, the original OGL is going to die and the new one is going to reign supreme. So thank you for all the likes, comments, for the chat. You guys are always great. Next week, we'll come back and we'll address some questions. I've got some lined up. River, you're my first question next week. So I'm going to make it a point to do questions on the 10th episode. But thank you for hanging out this evening. Remember to send questions to bardadvice or bardadvice@gmail.com. And then go to manshorts.com to get merch. And also, if you want to contribute to any music, I am Yazik on PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. I'm working on my next album at the moment. So thanks for coming and hanging out, everybody. I will see you next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Man Shorts channel. The audio for this will be available tomorrow at noon. Hope everybody has a great night.